A covenant is to a nation as a fan to the floor, which purges away the chaff and purifies the wheat. It is like the furnace to the metal, which takes away the dross and shows you a refined lump. It is the shibboleth to distinguish Ephraimites and Gileadites. And who knows not how great an advantage it is for the successful carrying on of any honorable design to know friends from enemies and the faithful from false brethren? Some have thought it unpolitical to set afoot this covenant, lest it should discover more enemies than friends, and so, holding out to the view more than otherwise can be seen, the weakness of a party may render them not only more obnoxious, but more inconsiderable. To this I answer, in a word, invisible enemies will ever do us more hurt than visible, and if we cannot deliver ourselves from them, when they are seen and known, doubtless unseen and unknown, they will be more easily, though more insensibly, devour us. And I verily believe we have already received more damage and deeper wounds from pretended friends than from professed and open enemies. The sad stories of Abner and Amasa inform us that there is no fence against this stroke, who comes too near us, who stabs while he takes us aside to speak kindly to us, who draws his sword while he hath a kiss at his lips, and art thou in health, my brother, in his tongue. Let us never think ourselves stronger because we do not know our weakness, or safer because we are ignorant of our danger, or that our real enemies and false friends will do us less hurt because they are less discovered. I do not think that a flock ever fared the better because the wolves that were amongst them went in sheep's clothing. Rather will our knowledge be our security, and the discovery which this covenant makes help on both our deliverance and our business. For as, possibly, this covenant may discover those who are faithful to be fewer than was supposed before, this strict distinction from others, so it will certainly make them stronger than they were before by a stricter union among themselves. And this is, number 2, the second benefit of this covenant, which I shall next insist upon. As it doth separate those who are heterogeneal, so likewise it will congregate and embody those who are homogeneal. And therefore it cannot but add strength unto a people. For whatsoever unites strengthens. A few united are stronger than a scattered multitude, though they who subscribe this covenant should be, comparatively, so few, as the prophet speaks, quote, that a child may write them, unquote. Yet this few thus united are stronger than so many scattered ones as exceed all arithmetic, whom, as John speaks, quote, no man can number, unquote. Cloven tongues were sent to publish the gospel, but not divided tongues, much less divided hearts. The former hindered the building of Babel. The latter, though tongues should agree, will hinder the building of Jerusalem. Then a work goes on amain, when the undertakers, whether they be few or many, all speak and think the same thing. A people, are more considerable in any work because they are one than because they are many. But when many and one meet, nothing can stand before them. So the Lord God observed when, quote, he came down to see the city and the tower, when the children of men builded, unquote. And the Lord said, quote, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do, unquote. Men may do as much as they can think, while they all think and do as one, and not only can do so great things if left alone, but none can let them in doing what they intend. So saith the Lord, quote, they have begun to do, and nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined, unquote. Nothing could restrain or let them from their work, but his power who, quote, will work, and none can let it, unquote. Thus it is apparent that union is our strength, and it is as apparent that this covenant, through the blessing of God upon it, will be our union. To unite is the very nature of a covenant. Hence it is called, quote, the bond of the covenant. And I will bring you into the bond of the covenant, unquote, saith the Lord. Junius and some others render it, I will bring you ad exhibitionem foederis, to the giving or tendering of the covenant, deriving the word from mesar, signifying to exhibit or deliver, whence to note that in passage the traditionary doctrine among the Jews is called Masorah or Masoreth. Others, whom our translators fellow and put the former sense, delivering in the margin. Others, I say, deriving the word from asar, to bind, render it the bond of the covenant. And this covenant is the bond of a twofold union. First, it unites us to this kingdom among ourselves, and this kingdom with the other two. Second, it makes a special union of all those who shall take it holily and sincerely throughout the three kingdoms with the one most God. Weak things bound together are strong, much more than when strong are bound up with the strong. Most of all, when strong are bound up with Almighty. If in this covenant we should only join weak to weak, we might be strong. But, blessed be God, we join strong, as creatures may be accounted strong with strong, the strong kingdoms of England and Ireland with the strong kingdom of Scotland. A threefold cord twisted of three such strong cords will not easily, if at all, be broken. They which single, blessed be the Lord, have yet such strength. How strong may they be when conjoined? As the apostle writes, quote, I speak after the manner of men, because of the infirmity of your flesh, unquote. So I speak now after the manner of men, concerning the strength of our flesh, outward means in these kingdoms. For as the apostle Peter speaks in the like phrase, though to another occasion, quote, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, unquote. So I may say, no man, no kingdoms, are strong to any purpose, as the Lord counts strength. And therefore I reckon this the least part of our strength, that these three strong kingdoms will be united by this covenant. Nay, if this were all the strength which this union were like to make, I should reckon this no strength at all. Wherefore, know that this covenant undoubtedly is and will be a bond of union between strong and almighty, between three strong nations and an almighty God. This covenant engages more than man. God also is engaged through his free grace in his power, wisdom, faithfulness, to do us good and much good, though in and of ourselves unworthy of the least, unworthy of any good. All this considered, this covenant will be our strength. Our brethren of Scotland have, in a plentiful experience, found it so already. This covenant, through the blessing of God upon their counsels and endeavours, hath been their Samson's lock, the thing in fight, wherein their strength lieth. And why should not we hope that it will be ours? If we can be wise as they, to prevent or overcome the flattering enticements of those Delilahs who would lull us asleep in their laps, only for an opportunity to cut or shave it off, then indeed, which God forbid, we should be but weak like other men, yea, weaker than ourselves were before this lock was grown, having but the strength of man, God utterly departing from us for our falseness and unfaithfulness in this covenant. Number 3. This covenant observed will make us an holy people, and then we cannot be an unhappy people. That which promotes personal holiness must needs promote national holiness. The consideration that we are in the bonds of a covenant is both a bridle to stop us from sin and spur to duty. When we provoke God to bring evil upon us, he says his hand by considering, he stays his hand by considering his covenant. Quote, I will remember my covenant, saith the Lord, which is between me and you, and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. Unquote. As if the Lord had said, it is more than probable that I shall quickly see as much cause, quote, all flesh corrupting all their ways before me, unquote, to drown the world with a second deluge, as I did for the first. The foulness of this world will quickly call for another washing, but I am resolved never to destroy it by water again, for, quote, I will remember my covenant, unquote. Hence also in the second book of Chronicles, chapter 21, where the reign and sins of Jehoram are recorded, which sins as might justly put a sword into the hand of the Lord to cut him off root and branch. Howbeit, saith the text, quote, the Lord would not destroy the house of David because of the covenant that he had made with David, and as he promised to give a light to him and to his sons forever, unquote. Now as the remembrance of the covenant on his part stays the hand of God from smiting, so the remembrance of the covenant on our part will be very effectual to stay our hands and tongues and hearts from sinning. A thought of that will dampen silence our lusts and passions when they begin to move or quest within us. It will also break the blow of Satan's temptations when he assaults us. The soul in such cases will answer, true, I am now as strongly tempted to sin as ever. I have now as fair an opportunity to commit sin as ever. I could now be false too. and desert this cause with as much advantage, upon as fair hopes and promises as ever. Oh, but I am in covenant. I remember my covenant. I will not, I cannot do it. And so he falls a-praying against the temptation, yea, he begs prayers of others, that he may be strengthened against and overcome it. I read you an instance of this effect. Before the sermon, a paper is sent to this congregation containing this request, quote, "One who through much passion oftentimes grievously offends the majesty of God by cursing and swearing, and that, since his late taking the covenant, desires the prayers of this congregation that his offense may be pardoned, and that he may be enabled to overcome that temptation from henceforwards." Unquote. This is the tenor of that request, to a letter and a tittle, and therein you see how the remembrance of the covenant wrought. Probably this party, whosoever he was, took little notice of, or was little troubled at the notice of these distempers in himself before. Least of all sought out for help against them. And I have the rather inserted this to confute that scorn which, I hear, some have since put upon that conscientious desire. As if one had complained that since his swearing to the covenant he could not forbear swearing, and that this sacred oath had taught him profane ones. But that holy thing is there which swine will not make mire of for themselves. But what holy thing is there which swine will not make mire of for themselves to wallow in? I return, and I nothing doubt, but that this covenant wherein all is undertaken through the grace of Christ will make many more gracious who had grace before, and turn others who were running on amain in the broad way from the evil and error of their ways into the way which is called holy, or into the ways of holiness. Every act wherein we converse with an holy God hath an influence upon our spirits to make us holy. The soul is made more holy in prayer, though holiness be not the particular matter of the prayer. A man gets much of heaven into his heart in praying for earthly things, if he pray in a spiritual manner, and the reason is because in prayer he hath converse with and draws nigh to God, whatsoever lawful thing he prays about. And the same reason carries it in covenanting, though it were only about the maintenance of our outward estates and liberties, for as much as therein we have to do with God. How much more then will holiness be increased through this covenant, which, in many branches of it, is a direct covenant for and about holiness. And if we improve it home to this purpose, for the subduing of those mystical Canaanites, those worst and indeed most formidable enemies, our sinful lusts, if we improve it for the obtaining of more grace and the making of us more holy, though our visible Canaanites should not only continue unsubdued with us, but subdue us, though our estates and liberties should continue, not only unrecovered, but quite lost, though we should neither be a rich nor a free nor a victorious people, yet if we are an holy people, we have more than all these, we have all. He is ours, quote, who is all in all, unquote. So much for the first general part of the application.